to this year's virtual LAMC. My name is Jesús Triviño, and I'm the head of industry relations and global Latin at TIDAL. And today, it is my honor to speak with the groundbreaking hip hop group, and one of the reasons I personally fell in love with hip hop, Cypress Hill. So, welcome, Sen Dog and Eric Bobo.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, fellas. So, we're celebrating the 50 years of hip hop this year, the culture that we love. What a simple question, or maybe not. What does hip hop mean to you?
Well, to me, hip hop means, a way of lifestyle, a culture, almost a religion, if you will. It's that deeply embedded in these American states as something that, was invented by kids that grew into something. It wasn't expected to, but it did. And it has big life, and it's everything. You know what I mean? It's for anybody can do it. Anybody that wants to get into it can get into it. It's not sectioned off. It's like I said, it's a way of life. It's a culture.
Wow. For me, hip hop definitely became a way of life and culture for me. Coming from a Latin jazz background, and that's kind of like what I was hearing to grow up and be a part of something that, as we now know, is groundbreaking and the number one genre of music in the world. To see it grow and be a part of that, it made me feel a part of something. So for me, it definitely became, a way of life and culture and just a way of being.
Right. So take us. So this is obviously, 50 years ago, before social media. So take us back from the beginnings of your awareness of the culture. Like, we all know it's grew up. It was founded in New York created by Black and brown kids. But how did you find out about Kool Herc and Flash and Charlie Chase? Like, take us back to that time. Like, how did it get to LA?
I had a friend that had moved from New York to LA, okay. And we were listening to different things at that point. I think, like early Egyptian Lover, stuff like that. And he came in and asking me, do you know who the Funky 4+1 is? I'm like, no, I never heard of any of these groups that he was asking me about. And through that guy, I was able to, seek out, hip hop, jams that I liked for myself, and Grandmaster Flash and all that stuff. That opened that door for that. So it was just like a chance encounter, really, because it wasn't like I hung out with the guy all the time, but he knew something about hip hop that I didn't know. And that was the history of it, because he came from it. And then he turned me onto it. And then I try to absorb as much as I possibly can and just be part of it, try to act like, wear my shoes and jeans and pants like I was from New York or something. That's how much I want to be part of it. But that's my entry into it. I didn't know how to rap. I didn't know how to pop lock or anything else, or the language or anything else. I didn't know any of it, except I liked the sound of it. And then what I saw when the kids were breaking and dancing to it, that was mind blowing in itself. So I was like, I immersed myself into that culture.
Nice. Eric, how about you? You come from, obviously, like you said, your father, Willie, you were immersed in music in general. So how do you become first aware of it? Was it easier for you being?
Well, it came to me, definitely through the music. Hearing like Rapper's Delight, and things like that. Grandmaster Flash, Furious 5, where they weren't sampling; those were live musicians. So, like when you have something like The Breaks by Curtis Blow, and there's a timbale solo in there, that's what I was playing. That was my instrument. So I'm like, oh man, I'm seeing both of these things merge together in a way in music that I was growing up with. It wasn't that it was already there; it was new. So I connected through to that musically, and I didn't really know who was playing, who the producers were, who the DJs were. I didn't really pay attention to that. I paid attention more to the fact that there was some percussion in this music and I could play this. and I was happy about that.
Speaking about that, Eric, so again, you're the great Willie Bobo, your father, and I was telling you before how you watched the Showtime doc and how you were pointing pictures of Tito Puente at Esteban's studio and saying how you used to be around those guys as a kid, which is wild to someone like me. First off, take us through that experience, but also how old were you when you picked up your first instrument? And also, it seemed like your father was super encouraging, obviously.
Yeah, my dad was real encouraging as far as, the music part of it. He saw something in me very early, with me just knowing about rhythm or feeling it, being able to play on time. Didn't mind me playing on the pots and pans. But being around, some of these, greats that really you would call them innovators and legends was incredible. I didn't get a chance to meet Tito Puente until right after, my father passed away. But I always knew of him and his music. And when I did get a chance to jam with him, play with him at a club in LA the first time, every time in LA, he would, call up the house, and invite me down to play. So to get schooled by the one who definitely, taught my dad, a lot of what he knew was great. So I got a chance to learn from the person that showed my dad. That was big to me. So being around all them musicians that later on will become staples of hip hop through sampling or being sampled, that was my big connection.
Yeah, for sure. So going back to, over I guess this over 30 years ago, the debut album, self-titled, How Could I Just Kill a Man, for me was insanity. I was 10, living in Brooklyn, fully immersed in hip hop at that time, and then I see these Latinos that look like my older cousins, like cursing in Spanish and hip hop songs, which so blew my mind. When did you realize that, and being during that moment, the impact that you were having not only on the culture but like on these kids like myself, right? When did you realize that was happening?
Well, I think the impact, when I recognized the impact, we were on tour with I think we were opening up for Naughty by Nature. We were opening up for them, and they were on a tour bus, and we were in a little caravan, and we were hard timing it across the country, but we were doing it, and we were fine doing it. We were happy doing it, and we get a call from our manager saying that they're going to take us off the tour because we're #1 in New York, and they want to bring us in to do like a series of video shoots for songs off the album. So, we jumped off the tour, went to New York, and, sure enough, it was Cypress Hill was everywhere, and the song was huge. People were playing it in their cars on the radio and all kind of things. And I started to recognize, like, okay, we made an impact with this, with how we came out, with the package we rolled out. We made an impact, and it was incredible to be in that position because I had previously been in New York to see, all the hip hop shows that went on during the New Music Seminar. And I saw some of the best MCs that I thought I'd ever see in my life. And I never thought that I couldn't foresee myself or us, having that center stage in that city, during those years. But sure enough, that happened. And the impact, was felt around the world after that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that music video, at least for me, it was a little confusing because like you shot in New York, you had that kind of like, you couldn't really pinpoint where you were from. But Muggs was from Queens, so you had that aesthetic. So was it more of, I guess, a record label thing that they were like, let's shoot this video in New York, or was it maybe a mutual idea?
No, we were already on the East Coast with Naughty. Okay. So it was either fly all the way back to LA or just fly up to New York right quick. And I remember, there was always these question marks around us, like, where are these guys from? Are they from like, apparently there's a place in the Bronx or Brooklyn called Cypress Hills.
Yep, in Brooklyn, yeah.
Right? So people thought we were from there. And then, but our whole get down was different. We had this Latino choloism about us, so it didn't look like we were from there. It looked like we were from somewhere else. So it was a big confusion for a minute until, you know, we actually put it out there that, you know, we're from, you know, Cypress Hill, LA. And no one knew about that because it's just our block, our neighborhood. But we put it on the map in a big way. And, you know, but now everyone knows, you know, there's Cypress Hills in New York and a Cypress Hill in LA.
Yeah. Well, no, they think about Cypress Hill, they think about y'all first. So first off, they don't think about the places. They think about the group. So again, the album Pigs, like Hand on the Pump. First off, Pigs was like, come on, like crazy. Hole in the Head. I shouldn't have been listening to this as a 10-year-old, I'm sure. But On and On, right? That album, like, and the sound revolutionized hip hop. And it was really this, you know, you were talking about the streets, smoking bud, but also being Latino and also LA life. So I feel like while NWA gave us the view, the Compton view, y'all gave us the other side, the Latino side. So
yeah,
you know, talk about that dynamic too.
Well, that was, you know, that was definitely, you know, after a while, it was done intentionally on purpose to show, you know, when you start noticing that, you know, all these cultures are coming up and representing who they are, where they're from, and, you know, then their ethnicity, you know, whatever that is, you know. So I kind of feel like Latinos had already, you know, we had passed that point already with Frost and Mello and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So I just felt that we kind of felt like we needed to do it like in a different way to where we're not hitting you over the head over, you know, with it about who we are as people. And so moving forward, you know, the album, most of the album was already done kind of when we decided to put some Rasta flavor style rhymes in there. You know what I mean? Most of the records were done already. And like Latin Lingo was one of like the last songs that we recorded.
Which is
you know,
one of your shining moments, I think. That Latin Lingo.
Yeah. You know, it's dope because, you know, Frost had La Raza and Melo had Mentirosa, and then Cypress Hill comes with Latin Lingo, and we just kept that movement right there, kept it pushing. So it was important to us, you know, to be, you know, you can look at us until we're Latinos, you know what I mean? But to be recognized, you know, as such, and people knowing that there's, you know, a bunch of Cubans and Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and Italians in this band, you know, I think it's something special, you know, that people see that and take pride in it. You know, you got to be proud of who you are and what country or race you come from. And you know, I am definitely proud to be a Cuban. And like, I know, Bobo, you're proud to be Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah, of course. Why would I say something else?
Word up.
Yeah, and Latin Lingo was very, not only that, but also if you listen to that song, you're like, oh yeah, these guys are from LA, like for sure. Because I'm like, no one like that speaks like that in New York.
Yeah, and the video was dope too because it portrayed a lot of the LA culture, and you know, from the lowriders to, you know, the clique, the gangs and the cliques and all that.
Yeah,
you know,
slang,
we got some of everything in there, and it was a good moment for us because at first we wanted to establish the fact that we're a good hip hop band no matter what. It doesn't matter who we are, what we are, okay? And then we established that, and then we went, okay, now let's let them know where we're from. And I kind of did that in Latin Lingo.
Yeah, for sure. Like you in the slang words like Yeska, I'm like, I don't know what the hell Yeska is. Like we don't, or oh no, Haina, like things like that. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, oh,
you know now, don't you?
Oh yeah, of course, because we used to play Shorty. What up, Shorty? So talking about the cultural mix, Eric, like Sam was mentioning it, the cultural mix, Cuban, Mexican, Boricua, Italian, like how has that influenced the music over the years? Now, yeah, like just a great mix.
You know, as you see the Latino culture, you know, it might, you know, go away for a minute, but it's always coming back, and it always comes back stronger than it came before. You know, I think right now we're in this huge new Latin wave that now more artists are getting accepted in the mainstream format. You know, not just being stuck on Latin radio or Spanish language based radio. So now I think things have really, really opened up, and people are seeing like, wow, Latinos have been in this. we've been doing this. So it's just great to have that kind of influence with music and with culture and everything. And I think that, it's shining even brighter now, and it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better.
Right. And it's a good point. Like, I think I personally think there should be a BC and an AC, like before Cypress, after Cypress. Like, before Cypress, you had, like you said, Kid Frost, your brother Mello, Charlie Chase. Then after Fat Joe, Beatnuts, Delinquent Habits. But also on the weed side, you had the Chronic, Snoop, Redman, Method Man, like all these, like the influence runs super deep. And speak on that, like on both of that influences, because you're all hip hop, but you also are weed advocates, are also Latino advocates, but just by being yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing was not a gimmick. That the advocates of cannabis, hemp, and all that was not a gimmick. We were deeply in tune with that scene, way before before we were even signed. And we just wanted to, in some way or another, we kind of felt like that marijuana was getting a bad name just because of the authorities telling you that it was bad. You know what I mean? So they're pushing marijuana out at that point, but at the same time, they're pushing crack in, right? So they kind of like left us in like in the middle of the road, because we didn't really want to do anything harder. We just wanted to do this, but it was hard to get, you know what I mean? So we just, at that point, I think, subconsciously, we put it in that, started thinking about the whole legalization. We always read the High Times, and we always were, up to date on the latest things, cannabis, the latest ways they grew it and everything else. And we just, at one point just started, we became over the top fanatical potheads that, just wanted to raise that flag and help be part of something that we thought was worth the time and effort to get into, and to say, hey, we want to put our flag here. This is where we stand as people. And I knew that there was a lot of people that got stoned and everything, but the response by the millions of people around the world that agreed with us was surprising, you know what I mean? Because it was just like, mad people in mad countries, live the same kind of lifestyle in their own way. And they were like, we're going to get behind this Cypress thing. And that was a special thing, because, you have to, if you got to foresee what you want to happen. So in order to legalize it, you have to start talking about it. And we were the first ones to start doing that. And for the most part, being a predominantly hip hop, marijuana hip hop, band, I don't want to take anything from anybody or anything, but who done it first. So, that's just the fact. So, and now we have a lot of people that are down with the movement, and the movement has become strong because of all these other artists who have joined in the same struggle. So it's a strong movement.
I think that it's important to note that, we were, talking about marijuana and legalization and decriminalization in an intelligent way. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like, oh, these rappers, the stoners, and all they're talking about just getting high. There wasn't, you can't have much substance after that. You have to be able to be knowledgeable. You have to be able to talk some facts and be able to answer those serious, deep questions about it. So it lets people know, like, wow, they're more than just, hip hop, stoners, but they're talking like activists. They're talking like people that are knowledgeable. And for us to be Latino and be knowledgeable and talking that, I mean, I think it said a lot. It spoke volumes to a lot of the people in the industry, both music and cannabis.
Right. And also, marijuana it comes from our people. So it literally comes from Latin America, right? So,
right. So it's there.
And then I know B-Real owns his Dr. Green Thumb brand. And in general, what do you guys think needs to be done for more Black and brown people to become CEOs in this business now that it is legal? And as before, we got locked up for it.
Well, I think the opportunities are there for those that are seeking it, you know. And in the last few years, I've seen a lot more black and brown, you know, ownership of cannabis businesses. So I think, you know, the opportunities are there. It's just about, you know, taking advantage of the opportunity, seizing the moment, and actually, you know, the follow through. You know, yeah, of course, it's going to cost, you know, some dividends to get into it and all that, but you know what I mean. If it's there, if you want to make it happen, it's there. You know what I mean. So you just gotta, you know, put your, you know, thinking cap on and go forward and do it. I think the opportunity is there for anyone.
Right. Right.
Know the business. Know your business. You know, know all aspects of the business.
Yeah,
you know, because everything there's so many moving parts. There's so much movement in the industry that if you don't know your business, you're gonna get lost real quick, and you're not gonna be able to catch up.
Right. So Erica, you mentioned this earlier. So, but looking at today's landscape of Latin music, with these artists like Bad Bunny, Ladio, Carrion, Karol G, Mike Towers, like all these artists are clearly influenced by hip hop. And I've always said in the last like couple of years that I've had the opportunity to be on panels when people like say, "Oh, the rebirth of Latin music, the Renaissance," and I'm like, "Yeah. Thank you, hip hop. If you don't thank hip hop for the boom of what Latin music has done in the last couple of years, then you're not seeing the real, the real. Because like, thank you, hip hop. Thank you, Black music, for all this, all the fruits and labors that these artists are having. So I'm saying this, and because of hip hop and artists like Cypress Hill, that these artists are able to dominate the charts today. And like, what is your perspective, POV on it, on what's going on with Latin music now with these artists?
I think, you know, personally, it's just helped to make it undeniable that, you know, the people outside of Latino culture, or, you know, Afro-American culture, it gave, you know, other people no choice but to talk about it, but to acknowledge it, but to acknowledge the power of it. Because now, like I said, you know, hip hop is the #1 genre in the world. And look, you go all over the world. Hip hop is strong all over the world, and you quickly see the Latin culture as well. You know, stringing up all over the world. You know, you hear it in the clubs. You hear it, you know, in the places that where all the influencers are at. So it's just a platform that has now become undeniable for anyone to not say that Latin music in general, as a whole, isn't important or hasn't been important to music.
So anything to add to that, or?
Well, you know, I've always thought that the whole Latino, not the whole Latino music scene, but what's happening now as far as the you know, the Latino rap scene, I've always thought it was deeply influenced by, you know, things that have gone on earlier, like all the other musics have. And I agree with Bobo in with him saying that hip hop is the #1 genre in the world. I agree with that, and it's, you know, it touches, you know, its reach is long, and it touches a lot of different cultures and areas on the planet. So I would say that the fact that the Latino vibe right now is hardly immersed into the hip hop culture, I'm not surprised, because you know, they're young, hungry artists, like you know, we were young, hungry artists at one point. And what was the easiest way for us to get our point out? It wasn't going buying guitars and drums. It was just grabbing a piece of paper and pencil and start writing. You know what I mean? So it's not an expensive thing to take up and do. You know, you just gotta want it. And I definitely see the influences that hip hop has had on that scene. You know, especially, you know, in recent years. It's really heavy now. So I just watch it. I just watching it grow. You know what I mean? Some of the stuff I like and some I don't, but I could tell, I could hear the influence in it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, you two. This has been great, an honor. I just wanted to say thank you from a kid that grew up in Brooklyn, Ecuadorian parents, thank you for what you've done. Like, it inspired me to do so much, and yeah, I can't say thank you enough. I bought your. I will say I bought a. I went to the back page of, I think, the Source, and bought a Cypress Hill shirt with the little money I had when I was 10.
Right.
And I don't have that shirt. I need to get another shirt. But anyway, thank you so much. We're closing out here at the LAMC. Thank you, Sen Dog. Thank you,
Hey,
Eric Bobo. Thank you, Cypress Hill.
thank you for your
man.
lifelong support, man.
Got it, man.
All right,
Peace.
y'all.
Peace.